What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Bowie here. Back at you with another video, as always. And I got some brand new MK11 footage with some skins that I downloaded from this YouTube creator named Shar, Shaar. I featured these skins in a video before, but I was playing computers, but now I'm playing against people online. And the skins work great, and they look terrific. So, feast your eyes as I talk about this stuff. And what am I talking about here? Well, the topic of today is how our rugged individualism, America's rugged individualism, is killing us and the world, you know. So let me set the table, if you will. A lot of us have heard that, you know, one of the fundamental paradoxes of America, which of course is never framed as a paradox, but it's, you know, listed all the same. But we learn that America's at once a united nation that believes in rugged individualism. And what does that mean? That basically means that if there's something in this country that you want, you gotta get up and get it yourself. You know what I'm saying? You gotta, use your own skills, your own resources, your own wiles, and all that kind of stuff to acquire whatever it is that you need, more or less. And it's mighty convenient, considering our economic system of capitalism, which basically functions off of the greed of individuals at the top, and it functions off of the ambition of the individuals towards the bottom to try to acquire riches by way of working as hard as they can. And so our financial system appeals to this rugged sense of individualism. That's what led to such terms as the manifest destiny. And it wasn't just a term, it was a series of policies and just a general attitude of, hey, we have to go out west, and whatever's out there, we're going to take it. Because we are rugged individuals that, do whatever we can to acquire whatever it is we want out of this world. Ooh, that was a hell of a whiff punish. Sheesh. Love that. Anyway, so rugged individualism was never a good thing. It's one of our many idioms and, phrases that, we use in America that actually, it actually turns out to be true, because there's certain things that, certain phrases that we use that we don't actually pursue all the way. And that's a shame. We don't actually live up to those ideals very much, but this rugged individualism, we definitely live up to that. And it is to our detriment. So I've given a little bit of a rundown of what it is and how it's been applied in the past. Like I said, it's the attitude that allowed Americans to settle out west, committing mass genocide and mass homicide and, you know, doing all kinds of atrocities to steal land from the people that were already there, you know. But now it has bled into so many aspects of our society. And it's so deeply ingrained that we don't even know it's there. We don't even know that that is the base attitude that is driving a lot of our decisions. You know, take, for instance, relationships. You know, for the longest time, you know, society in America basically treated women as acquisitions and property. I mean, make no mistake, that hasn't really stopped. It's just that more women are getting sick and tired of that type of shit. And they're deciding to strike out against that notion. Good for them. But all before that, women were to be seen and not heard. They were to be acquired, but not obeyed, not respected, you know, because rugged individualism basically sort of clued people in on, okay, well, look, in this life, there are some things I'm supposed to get. I'm supposed to, you know, have a home in a middle-class neighborhood. I'm supposed to have a nuclear family. I'm supposed to have my own car. I'm supposed to have a nice high-paying job. You know, typically it was some sort of factory work or something where there's manufacturing involved. Or it could have been, you know, one of those white-collar gigs or something like that. And you know, that's sort of been how it was. That's sort of the Mad Men era of, you know, American social life. But then even today, you know, individualism, rugged individualism has led people to avoid compromising in relationships. For one, they won't even be friends with somebody before they get with them. You know, it's like, I see you, I want you, and that's it. That's sort of how that works. And mostly it's men, but it's women too. You know, people see somebody, they want to do them, and then they can work out the friendship stuff and everything else after that. That's sort of the attitude that they take. But not realizing that when you decide to partner up with somebody, when you decide to even enter somebody's space, you are sharing that space with them. They are sharing their body with you if y'all decide to do the do. And when someone's deciding to share their space and existence and body with you, being a rugged individual comes into deep conflict with this. Because now, for instance, when y'all are doing the do, you ain't thinking about pleasing them. You're thinking about pleasing yourself. Let me bust this nut, so to speak. Well, not even so to speak, but literally, let me go on ahead and bust this nut. I hope you get yours before I get mine, type of deal. That ain't no good. It's supposed to be a joint effort. It's supposed to be dual pleasure. you know, at a bare minimum. But even beyond sex, you know, people have this idea that they can hit it and quit, and they can do this repeatedly with no consequence. And, you know, you're free to engage in whatever kind of activities that you want. But there are consequences. You know, you can't, it's only so long that you can hit and quit, hit and quit, hit and quit, hit and quit before it gets old, before it begins to catch up with you, you know, before you hurt somebody that you don't want, that you should have never hurt. And then you pay for your selfishness. You know, I'm primarily talking about men here because they're the primary culprits of this, but it works the same for women, because there are, you know, women out there that be trying to do the hit quit thing and one and done kind of deal, and that doesn't really work out historically. So yeah, in relationships, that's sort of the attitude that people take on is, hey, I don't give no fuck about nobody else but me here. I want what I want. Nothing else matters. You know. And so, and then a lot of that prevents them from even entering relationships with somebody. You know. And if they do decide to enter a relationship with said somebody, that attitude creeps up again. Because now, like I said, there's no compromise. There's not even any real listening or communication. You know, you're not trying to hear the other person's perspective and viewpoint. You're not trying to get a sense of what's really going on with them. You're not even thinking about not only what you want out of a potential relationship, you're not even thinking about what it is that you have to offer this person. You know, all you're thinking about is what you can get. And that's that individualism coming into play, that individualistic nature that we have, where this world revolves around us. You know, fuck being in a partnership with somebody, an equal partnership where, you know, each person contributes to the long-term health of the relationship equally. No. It's about keeping score. It's about running tabs on who's doing more and who's doing less, who's not pulling their weight. You know, it's about monitoring, am I happy here, rather than am I making them happy? Are they happy with me? You know. So that attitude creeps in heavy just in relationships. This base principle of rugged individualism creeps in quite heavily as it pertains to our politics. I'll give an example. COVID-19, the pandemic of 2020, you know, the one whose effects we're still feeling right now. The pandemic that caused all this crazy inflation that we're going through right now. You know, what happened during COVID? Well, first thing that happened was a lot of people just binge purchased a lot of essential items, things like toilet tissue, hand sanitizer, you know, cleaning supplies, disinfectants. All that stuff was not even available for purchase for weeks. Hell, frankly, I'm surprised that I could even find bleach, because that was the first thing that I thought would be gone, but I was able to get some. But the fact is, people went and binge purchased this stuff. Like, they just grabbed all that they could. And it wasn't just cleaning supplies. Water? Oh my God. You couldn't even get your hands on no damn water in the early days of the pandemic. You know, food wasn't too scarce, but certain items were kind of, hard to come by and things of that nature. But, a lot of items that were once plentiful to find were suddenly scarce, very scarce. And why is that? Because people only thought of themselves. They didn't say, hey, normally I might buy 1 gallon of bleach, but let me get 3 this time and leave the rest for people that actually need it. No, they didn't do that. They went and said, I'm going to buy 10 gallons of bleach. I don't give a damn. All the bleach that I can fit, I'm getting it. I'm going to get all the hand sanitizers that I can find. I'm just going to snatch them and dash them, just grab as many as possible. Not giving a damn about the next person. And that's dangerous. Not only was that assholish, it was dangerous. Because here's the problem. If you go out and grab all the damn hand sanitizers, you are one person. If you have all the hand sanitizers, that means nobody else in your vicinity has access to them, or very few people do. And so you have the opportunity to make sure your hands are clean, but everybody else around you, they have dirty hands because you bought all of the hand sanitizer. So now COVID is spreading faster because you decide, I'm going to be greedy and grab them all, But it wasn't just hand sanitizer. It wasn't just, the acquisition of supplies. Another way rugged individualism, was a plague upon us during the pandemic was in the area of masking. See, masking became politicized for some reason. And, well, it's not for some reason. It was Donald Trump. He politicized it. He tried to downplay the seriousness of the pandemic to begin with. He compared COVID to the flu, even though the two of those are nowhere near alike. They're not even in the same family of virus. But, he gave people a false sense of security that they didn't need to wear a mask and all this. And so when you had masks and later vaccine mandates, the idea of those being floated around was too much for so many people to handle, because they were used to doing whatever the hell they wanted to do with no one being able to tell them what to do. And that's the attitude that they approach this with. You can't tell me what to do. So in other words, it don't matter if you might have COVID. You're not going to wear a mask because you don't want to wear a mask. You don't care about your potential effect on your fellow human being. That's too much to consider for you. All you care about is what you do and do not want to do. You see how rugged individualism plays a role here? When you are so focused on your individuality, you don't give a damn about the societal impacts of your actions. You don't care about the repercussions of your decisions upon other people. All you think about is yourself. There's so many people that needed to be wearing masks. They decided they weren't going to mask. And they helped spread the virus. And then later, when the vaccine came out, there was massive controversy surrounding the vaccine. And a lot of it was ideological because conservatives and other right-wing figures generally made the decision that, hey, I don't give a fuck. I'm not wearing no mask. Generally speaking, it was them. Wasn't always, though, because there were plenty of blue voting people that were at the very least hesitant to get the vaccine. And so many of them were like, well, you can't force me to get this vaccine. Why should you even have to be forced? Why should you have to be forced to not allow your body to be a viral incubation chamber? Why should anyone even have to tell you that it's not okay to potentially infect people with a lethal respiratory airborne virus? I don't understand why. I'm sort of at a loss as to why people have to be told that that's not cool. Like, why are you not already thinking about your fellow American or your fair? It ain't got to be a fellow American, fellow human, bruh. Because even if the people are from another country, they don't deserve to be infected by you just because you want to be a selfish motherfucker. Like, just like you don't deserve to be infected by them. Same principle. This was a dumbass decision on this dude's part. Super stupid. Anyway. So many people decided they weren't going to get vaccinated. They weren't going to wear masks. They were going to continue to gather at the risk of their own lives and the lives of their families and other people around them. They wanted to treat this pandemic as though it wasn't serious. They wanted to keep living American life as they knew it, with no regard as to how that would impact other people. And to me, that was a shock. Because I'm like, wait a minute. Let's say, excuse me. Let's say you are a rugged individualist. I would think that if you care about your individual well-being so much, you would never jeopardize yourself by allowing some virus to infect your body. I would think that you wouldn't even give it a chance to happen. So you would stay strapped up. You would keep your distance. You would avoid going to gatherings and all of that stuff. But that's not what people did. And we know this because this country lost over 1 million people during this pandemic. And most of those lives did not have to be lost. some of those people, many of those people could have been saved if they just thought about their collective fellow person instead of themselves first, you know? All they thought about was themselves. They had their other ideological reasons and excuses, really. But at the core of it is this, fatal belief that, my life is only about me. Fuck everybody else. That's the base idea that I'm challenging in this video here. Because your life is not just about you. We all have people that we impact with our decisions, whether that be our children, whether that be our parents, our siblings, our spouses, our neighbors. There are people in your immediate vicinity that have to deal with whatever you decide to do. And in no area of American life is that more apparent than guns. See, earlier this week, there was another mass shooting at a Christian school. And I'm forgetting where this happened at, what state it was. I was thinking it was Tennessee, but I could be mistaken. Point is, we have had mass shooting after 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 mass shooting in all kind of different settings. This particular setting was a school, as I said, and teachers died, students died. And when I say students, I'm talking about little kids, because this was I think it was a hybrid elementary and middle school. So you had babies dying because of this shooter. But what's the narrative surrounding this? Is the narrative, wait a minute, how can we help try to prevent this? Nah. People are fixated on the shooter and the fact that the shooter happened to be a trans woman. And yes, this is interesting because the overwhelming majority of mass shooters are white men. Straight white men, cisgender white men. Not all of them are straight, and not all of them are white men, but they are primarily male. This one was a trans woman, and many people are using this one shooting as a chance to be toxic and transphobic and shit. And that in and of itself is a shame. But what we should be focusing on is how can we do everything in our power to try to stop this shit from happening again? But is that what's happening? Hell no. People are too busy being preoccupied with their right to bear arms. Because invariably, when these shootings come up, these shooters use an AR-15 style weapon, which has no business in civilian hands whatsoever. It's a weapon of war. Or it's derived from a weapon of war. Because the AR-15 is not used in the military, the M4 is. But the AR-15 is a modified version of an M4. But that gun is custom designed to shoot things en masse. The bullets do ridiculous damage to targets, and you can shoot a high volume of them in a quick amount of time. And it's easy to use, easy to modulate, easy to reload. You know, it is the perfect weapon for killing mass numbers of human beings. Now, in a society that wasn't so built on hyper individualism, such a weapon wouldn't even exist. And if it did exist, it wouldn't be sold to the masses. You wouldn't be able to pick these things up at a gun store. But we don't live in such a society. We live in a country where our individual rights to do whatever the hell we want trump other people's lives to not be affected by our decisions. And it gets on my nerves, really. And to me, it's sickening, because I always learn that power and rights automatically bear responsibility. See, you don't just get rights and you just, with those rights, you just have carte blanche to do whatever you want. No. Those rights always come with responsibility. Those rights always come with limits. Always. See, even with the First Amendment, freedom of speech, you have a right to criticize the government without it retaliating against you. But that doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want with impunity. That was never it. That was never what that amendment said. But yet, when people say something that's offensive to groups of people, and those group of people call them out on social media and make them pay, either by social shaming them or something like that, now they want to holler cancel culture. Oh, cancel culture. Oh, cancel culture. Bitch, shut the fuck up. You're being held accountable for what you said. That's all that happened here. You said something dumb. You said something irreprehensible, and people rightly reacted and called you out for it. And you had to pay. You had to pay for what you said. That's not cancel culture. You didn't get canceled. You were not deplatformed. You were not prevented from making money. Nothing happened to you. You might have lost opportunities. But guess what? You didn't have to say that thing that you said. Or at the very least, if you said it, you could have came back and apologized sincerely for the harm that you caused. But no, you had to dig your heels in and double down, because your rugged individualism won't allow you to see that, hey, I don't get to harm other people in the name of freedom. But in this hyper individualistic culture, we don't give a damn what we do to people. We don't give a damn who we hurt to get what we want. We don't care who don't like it. We don't care who suffers as a result of our decisions. We just do what we want to do, And a lot of it is, divided amongst, along partisan lines and things of that nature, because it's the right wingers that primarily behave in this way. And I know it seems like conservatives are like my favorite punching bag. But I promise I'm not trying to be a partisan here, because Democrats do the same thing. But blue voters are much more likely to support policies that benefit the society, that are less individually focused, you know? So even though they can be just as culpable, they often are not, you know? But it's one of those situations that deeply upsets me, because it's so, this attitude is so highly baked into the cake of our society that a lot of people don't even recognize that it's there. A lot of people just don't even see it. It has to be pointed out to them. To their credit, once it's pointed out to them, then they get it. They're like, oh, yeah, that's right. That is true. I did notice that. Yeah, so did I. But given the fact that this is there, the question is, what do we do? Well, for one, we need to start learning from cultures that are different than us. You know who understood that collectivism was great? Native Americans. They understood that we lived in a community, a global community. We are connected to the earth. And so we need to respect it and make choices that preserve the sanctity and the dignity of the earth and the living creatures that are on it. And look, I'm not trying to lionize them, but pollution wasn't a thing when they were around. Deforestation wasn't a thing. Genocide of certain species of animals wasn't a thing. There's just some consequences of modern day, human existence that didn't exist in their day, and we're going to pay for that consequence. We're going to pay for those choices, because climate change, bruh, we ain't seen the half of what effects that's going to have. I've heard that eventually people are going to be having wars over water. Imagine that. On a planet that's like 70% water, we're going to be fighting over clean water. But does that surprise me? Hell no. Hell no. Because all we care about is acquiring our stuff, what we want. We ain't thinking about what other people need, how their needs intersect with ours, how we can do something collectively so that everybody benefits. Solidarity is not a thing. And, one other area where individualism really hurts is with racial issues in this country. There are so many marginalized groups of people that understand that this society is white dominated, rich white dominated. And some of them seem to understand that, the rich white supremacists, they don't rock with them, But here's the thing. For every one group that is subject to this racialized mess, there's always a group that gets it worse. And instead of these marginalized groups of people defending other groups that are not similar to them but are in a similar position, a lot of them take sides with the oppressor. You see anti-blackness really heavy amongst other marginalized groups that they themselves are maligned by white supremacists. And that's a shame. Even marginalized groups who come from other marginalized groups can harbor resentment. And that's a problem. Like, there are so many groups of Spanish speaking people whose ancestors were black, yet they carry anti-blackness in them. And it's like, excuse me, do you understand that your people come from African slaves just like mine do? Do you understand that a lot of the people in your native country look just like me? Do you understand that the reason why your women are so desirable is because they get their best features from people that look like me? Do you understand that? I'm just saying. We have more in common than we have in different. So why are you fighting against me? Do you not understand that the white supremacist does not like either of us? He don't like none of y'all. He don't like any of us. We need to band together because we're the ones that have the upper ground here. We're the ones that push this shit forward. All of us do in various ways, but we got to band together. We don't need to be at each other's throats. That was one of the themes behind the second Black Panther movie. Because you have these two groups of marginalized people with vibranium, and Americans are after both groups. But instead of vowing to protect each other, they're fighting each other, killing each other even. Now, by the end of the movie, they came to their senses. They did the thing that they should have done from the get-go. But why must it get to that point first? And here's the thing. This doesn't mean all colored people versus white people, because the average white person is marginalized as hell too. White people are marginalized if they're different. They need to stick together with us too. Because it's the white supremacist that doesn't rock with them, even though they're the same skin color. So this begs the question, what do we do? How do we try to reverse this? Well, for one, it starts with recognizing that we don't live here by ourselves. Recognizing that we are a part of something larger than us. Our society and this planet are bigger than us. We need to recognize that the planet would actually be better if we weren't here, consuming every goddamn thing. And I think once you understand that fundamental belief, then you understand how insignificant you are. See, one grain of sand don't mean nothing, but billions of grains of sand make a beach. You see? One atom doesn't mean very much, but when you put trillions of atoms together, now suddenly you have a being. You have something that has been created now from these atoms and molecules. You see? We really are stronger together. And we see this theme in all different areas if we look close enough. So I think that's one of the things we can do. Another thing that we can do is really try to teach children the necessary art of imagining yourself in the shoes of somebody else. Because too many adults don't have that basic skill of empathy. See, when you're non-empathetic, you don't even care about other people. You don't care what they have going on because you can't imagine for a second what it's like to be them. All you know is how to be you. And that's the only perspective that you can even be open to as your own. And that's a problem. Because we do not have a monopoly on perceiving everything correctly. As a matter of fact, we will never be able to perceive all things correctly. And so we need other people to get a fuller picture. And that's something that has to be taught and reinforced. But it has to be taught and reinforced while people are young. If you try to teach it to them after they done got older, like my age and stuff, it's too late by then. You know, a lot of the time. But really and truly, you know, a lot of it is going to have to come from us learning how to unplug from some of the most well-worn and strongest facets of our society. We have to learn to question the validity of some of our most cherished traditions, some of our most closely held beliefs. We got to learn to question them and test them. See if they hold up. Especially when new scenarios arrive like a pandemic, a global pandemic. Because COVID taught me that our way of life is frail. At any moment, we can go from things being all good to, oh, everything's messed up. You know? And those are the perfect opportunities to test our most closely held beliefs. Hold them up to the fire and see if they hold, you know? But let me skip past some of this. Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, that's some of how we could sort of combat this kind of individualism. And probably one of the biggest things that we can do is look beyond our narrow scope. For the majority of this video, I've been talking about Americans. But I wouldn't be surprised if this attitude extended out beyond our borders to all or most of the westernized nations. You know, one of the best things a person can do is get out of their country. If you live here in America, travel abroad. Like for real, for real. Go somewhere else. Because just merely disrupting our perspective of America is often enough to really fundamentally transform a person, at least get them to change their mind on some things. You know, and that's one of the main things I think would really help out, is merely just traveling abroad, you know. But at the end of the day, it's going to be up to us. And it's going to be a long time before this idea gets traction, but I wanted to call attention to it here and now. That way, you at least can't say you weren't told. But with that being said, y'all, I'm up out of here.